Gladiator 2 is once again directed by Ridley Scott and comes to us 24 years after the original Russell Crowe starring film. So after his home is conquered by the tyrannical emperors who now lead Rome, Lucius is forced to enter the Colosseum and must look to his past to find strength to return the glory of Rome to its people. But before we go any further in the video, I do want to give a special thank you to the sponsor, BetterHelp. We all go through personal stresses in life, and some of us have dealt with very severe anxiety in the past, and I certainly have, which is why it's been great to be able to turn to something like BetterHelp. BetterHelp is on a mission to make starting therapy easier. BetterHelp is a platform where therapists and their clients can communicate effectively and get the most out of therapy through messaging, phone calls, and video chats. There's a journal inside the platform for personal reflection, and there are group sessions on a number of different topics available every day. Starting therapy is easy with BetterHelp. You fill out a questionnaire, and you'll match with a therapist in as little as a couple days. One of the best features of BetterHelp is that if the first therapist doesn't feel like the right fit, you can easily switch to another one when you find someone who you really connect with. They carefully make sure therapists on the platform are well qualified, and their customer support team is there to help you if you have any questions. So if you're struggling and you think you'd benefit from a therapy session, click the link in the description or go to betterhelp.com/Chris Stuckmann and get 10% off your first month of therapy. So please do check out that link in the description below. That's betterhelp.com/Chris Stuckmann. Thank you so much to them for sponsoring this video. The original film tends to top the lists of various websites. It's super high rated everywhere, except for critics. Critics enjoy this movie, but were never swept away by it. I've seen Gladiator twice. I really like it, but it was never one of my all-time favorite movies. I think Ridley Scott's obviously a genius and an incredible filmmaker, and when Russell Crowe asks me if I'm entertained, the answer is absolutely yes. But I've never revered that movie like some do, and so I went into Gladiator 2 with a very clean slate, just wanting a good movie. And that is exactly what I got. Gladiator 2 is extremely well made. At 86 years old, Ridley Scott is running circles around every filmmaker in the business. It's astounding to me that at this age, he's directed an epic with this much scale, with this much action, with so much scope. While watching Gladiator 2, I thought this really feels like the type of movie that would have come out in the late 90s or the early 2000s and directed by somebody like Scott, firing on all cylinders. In fact, I fear for what the sword and sandal epic will become when Ridley Scott eventually passes, because I don't know if Hollywood's gonna let anyone else make movies of this size, this enormity, with people like Denzel Washington in it, who absolutely commands the screen. During all of his sequences, he will get a Best Supporting Actor nomination and could even win, his third, if so. He is having so much fun with a surprisingly complex character that is very wishy-washy in his ideals, meaning that he will go towards someone and be like, yeah, I'm on your side. Behind the scenes, he's also talking to somebody else who's the enemy of that person saying, yep, I'm with you. And you watch as he plays these characters like they're pawns in a chess game. Pedro Pascal also has a welcomingly complex character in that he is presented in one way early on, and you feel the tunnel vision of our protagonist played by Paul Mescal. You're looking at Pedro Pascal from that perspective, and only from that perspective. But as you get more scenes where he's alone talking about how he feels about things going on in Rome, you realize there's so much more under the surface. Let's talk about Paul Mescal, because this is obviously a gigantic, humongous opportunity, but I imagine something that's very daunting. He bulked up for the role and he delivers. He's so good in all of the action scenes. What is very important to his character is that Denzel Washington is constantly telling him, you have this rage, there's this fire burning in you, and I am going to use that as my instrument to completely overthrow everything that's happening in Rome. So Mescal's got to deliver that in the action scenes, and he absolutely does. This guy is decapitating and removing limb from limb, and he's screaming and spitting while he does it, and he is so intense in the film. I loved him here. And those action scenes are extremely impressive. We've got a Colosseum filled with sharks. We've got a very angry rhinoceros and a lot of sword fights, and it is very gory, which I was extremely happy to see. This is a gigantic rated R movie where characters have very long discussions in between battles. Yes, there is incredible action sequences that most people are going to be really excited to see, but I was so pleased that this 2.5 hour bulky epic movie had quite a bit of character work going on as well. I will say that there was a prevailing sense of where are we going with this for like the first 20 to 30 minutes of the movie, despite an excellent opening action scene that was visually arresting. It's just that there's a lot of characters, and they have to be positioned in certain ways for the movie to kind of get going. But I think on second viewing, those thoughts will probably go away. I imagine probably the biggest complaint with this movie will be something along the lines of, oh, it follows certain story beats that are in the original Gladiator a little too closely. I knew what was going to happen based off of the past and what I'm looking at now, or that it wasn't original enough or something along those lines. But I do think that for a film to spend this amount of money, to have this amount of actors in it, and the insane amount of action that's in the film, it's just not the type of movie to take those risks. Because we live in a world right now where most big studio movies don't like to take huge risks because they need a return on their investment. And when they do, it tends to not go that well for them. But I wouldn't say this is like a beat-for-beat recreation of Gladiator. But yeah, it's a guy who's captured and he's got to go in a bunch of gladiatorial matches, and there's people that he talks to in between them that are similar to the characters of the first movie. And if that's going to be a problem for you, then it's going to be a problem for you. But to me, this felt like a 35-year-old made this film. There is so much energy and vitality to it. Ridley Scott might as well be in his 50s, and yet he is nearly 90, which is mind-boggling. I think on the production design side, on the costumes, potentially editing, visual effects, and Denzel Washington, you're going to see a lot of Oscar nominations. But I don't think people will like it as much as the first movie, even though for me, it's a pretty good companion piece with it, to be honest. But again, I'm not falling at the altar of 2000's Gladiator. I enjoy that movie. Guys, thank you so much, as always, for watching. Look forward to more videos very soon. And if you like this, you can click right here and get Stuckmanized.